joining us. I'm Abbie Chatfield and I am delighted to be hosting tonight's REELise Bites. We're about to watch a film by Georgia Michelle Cramp called She. It explores transphobia and bullying. I'll be back right afterwards to have a chat with some very special guests.
Happiness hit me like a train on a track, coming towards me, stuck still, no turning back. I hid around corners and I hid under beds. I killed it with kisses and from it I fled. With every bubble I sank with a drink and washed it away down the kitchen sink. The dark days are over, the dark days are done. The horses are coming, so you better run. Run fast for your mother, run fast for your father. Run for your children, for your sisters and your brothers. Leave all your love and your loving behind. You can't carry it with if you want to survive. The dark days are over, the dark days are done. Can you hear the horses? 'Cause here they come. And I never wanted anything from you. Except everything you had and what was left after that too. Run fast for your mother, run fast for your father. Run for your children, for your sisters and your brothers. Leave all your love and your loving behind. You can't carry it with if you want to survive. The dark days are over, the dark days are done. Can you hear the horses? 'Cause here they come. Happiness, it hit her like a bullet in the back. Struck from a great height by someone who should know better than that. The dark days are over, the dark days are done. Can you hear the horses? 'Cause here they come. Run fast for your mother, run fast for your father. Run for your children, for your sisters and your brothers. Leave all your love and your loving behind. You can't carry it with you if you want to survive. The dark days are over, the dark days are done. Can you hear the horses? 'Cause here they come.
What's that, dude? Joke? Miss, I know who I am. I'm Shane! has no place in this classroom.
It's such a sad reality that many of us in the LGBTQIA plus community experience bullying and harassment. There is still so much room for improvement within schools to include diversity and acceptance. Joining me now, my favourite drag queen on RuPaul's Drag Race Australia, non-binary artist and activist, etc., etc. And we also have Emily Unity, mental health advocate, lived experience consultant and digital artist. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you. It's such a pleasure.
You look gorgeous.
I feel gorgeous.
So what's your reaction to the film and its themes?
Look, to be honest, when watching films about the trans community, it's really inspiring to see kind of my life experience and the life experience of my friends mirrored back to me on screen. When I was growing up, I can't remember an instance where I saw the lived experience of trans people reflected in a way that wasn't, I suppose, mocking or making fun at or the butt of the joke. So seeing people on screen authentically telling stories of trans people it's really beautiful and inspiring for us other trans artists to tell our stories to the world.
What would it have meant to you when you were younger to see that?
To be honest, I think it would have just let me know that my community was out there. And I spent a long time searching for the people that make me feel, empowered today and able to be a beacon of, activism for other people. But that took a long time to get there. And I feel like these kind of resources are so useful for young people to have at their disposal. It's like I can actually see myself on screen. It's a huge asset for people that are often pushed to the side and hidden in the darkness by society.
Absolutely. And Emily, what was your reaction to the film?
Yeah, exactly the same, really. Like, it's such a raw and beautiful thing. And I think it's not just fantastic to see queer representation on film, but also like young lived experience queer representation, I think is fantastic. And honestly, it would have changed a lot of things for me as well growing up. I think I really found it difficult to find people that experience similar things to me. And it really, I don't know, the film is a very big roller coaster of emotions, I'd say. Like the acceptance by the brother is so beautiful and something that I really craved. But then at the end with the ocean and everything falling apart, it's just a very real representation of how coming out is not easy and how it's very much up and down. And yeah, the struggles that consistently happen within the queer community.
So, et cetera, have you ever experienced bullying or harassment for being part of the LGBT community?
I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who hasn't experienced bullying or harassment.
You're like, no.
No, I'm the one person who hasn't. No, honestly, and especially watching the film, it definitely brought me back to moments where, like when I went to high school, I was AMAB, which is assigned male at birth, and I identify as a trans non-binary person now. And in high school, I always found it very, very confusing when I would go be sent into the boys' PE room and have to associate with all of these people who identified as male, and I would feel so out of place, and I would feel like I was the odd one out, and I never knew why I felt like that. I never knew why, they were all picking on me and calling me names and making me feel uncomfortable, and it's because I realized I didn't belong there. That wasn't my place. And watching this film, I was like, I resonate with the feeling of feeling like an outsider.
Well, now as an adult, you've obviously found your people. Do you feel like less of an outsider now?
Absolutely. I feel on the inside. I do. And I think that's the amazing thing about telling queer stories and being able to exchange them in places like this is that people find the people they're meant to be with, the people that lift them up, that solidarity. And it's really important for people to find safe spaces.
Yeah, and high school's such a vacuum. People need to know when you get older, you find your people and you find your where you fit in the most and you feel so safe and welcome, and high school doesn't even matter.
It's such a blip in your life that one day you'll wake up and you'll go, why did I even worry about all of that? But in the time it can be really, really intense. A lot of young people live with their families, and that adds an extra level of complexity. And I mean, experiencing that kind of bullying and harassment from people within your family for young queer people is also really, really difficult. And I think this film showed a really tender, soft example of the brother being really accepting to his brother coming out. And I think that's really, really special, but not everyone is that lucky.
Emily, what about you? What have you experienced?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I grew up in a very cis-het and also white community, so I felt very out of place just generally. So there's a lot of discrimination from people that weren't like me, but also I've also felt very much like a lost minority within a minority a lot of the time, because even within queer communities, there's still some like misrepresentation and misunderstandings. Because I'm personally I'm pan and I'm demi, so I'm not straight, I'm not gay, I'm pansexual, and I'm not sexual or asexual, I'm demisexual, and also I'm not white. And there's a lot of discrimination with like queer communities not being completely white facing as well. And I think that sort of cultural nuance really needs to be accepted as well. And there's a lot of layers of stigma and intersectionalities of privilege that come into it.
How difficult do you think it is for trans youth to be their authentic selves at school currently?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting conversation because we've come so far and there's so much more accessibility to resources and community and finding people like you and hearing stories about you. But also in the same way, we have some, we have some pushes from conservative politicians and certain groups in society that want to, more than ever, silence those voices and shut down those conversations. And so when your existence is being debated in the media and in public forums, it can become really overwhelming. And I think the online discourse around trans people becomes so toxic that I think it's equally as damaging as real life discourse for a lot of trans youth. Now they have their phones in their hands. When I was growing up, I had a Tamagotchi and that did not send me any online hate. But now all these kids are going to school and they've got this machine in their hands which has the ability to, I suppose, feed extra negativity into their lives.
Yeah, and I think the more visibility there is, the more angry people come out of the woodwork, right? Like it's that like TikTok comments are just hell on earth. Like I don't even, if it's anything that's remotely, not even controversial, but progressive, I don't even look at the comments because I think it's going to be an absolute hellfire and that if it gets to the wrong side of TikTok.
I don't read my comments and I very deliberately like make sure that when I'm putting out content, I know who I'm putting it out for and I know that I'm engaging with the audience. And if people want to comment nasty stuff, it just means it's getting the reach of people seeing it and challenging their ideas. And I think that a lot of young trans people shouldn't have to be the ones challenging society. They should just be allowed to exist.
Yes.
And
it's their job to be the vanguard, to be the person pushing and pushing and pushing.
so I think trans youth have it both ways. I think it's better because there's, a bit more visibility, a bit more support, but also everyone now has to be an activist and an influencer and stand up for what's right. And sometimes people should just be given the joy of existence.
So there are a lot of great organisations out there supporting LGBT youth, but are schools doing enough?
Not well enough, in my opinion. I think that we can always do better, and I think there's something that I really like that's like sort of like cultural humility. It's sort of like learning about your own experiences and learning about the diversity of other people's experiences, and it's an ongoing process. And I feel like the school curriculum is so focused on set facts and values as opposed to teaching acceptance and compassion and open-mindedness. And I feel like there's always progress that can be made with the growing connectedness of our world and the growing diversity of our people. And I think schools have a very big part to play in that. And it's not just, wear it purple day. Like it's not a singular day. You have to live and breathe activism and acceptance.
So in recent years, Mardi Gras has experienced a huge growth in support for people outside the LGBT community. How else can they be good allies?
I think being an ally is all about holding space. And it's not necessarily about going out every day and going, I'm going to get everything right. I'm not going to make any mistakes because no one's perfect. It's impossible to be perfect. But it's about holding the space for people within your lives to go, when I need to stand up for you or when I need to be there for you, I've got the energy and I've got the commitment to do that for you.
Yeah.
And I also think allies should, I heard a saying, always striving, never perfect. You're always aiming to do the best you possibly can. And if you make a mistake, you brush it off, you wake up the next day and you try better. I think especially people operating on intersections of the queer community, this conversation is really pertinent because you're like, oh, I've just learned how to become an ally for, people of color. How can I then be an ally for trans people? There's so much to learn. It really is just about listening, being there for individuals and not expecting to know everything.
Emily, what's your best advice for someone who is struggling to be out with their gender identity or sexual orientation?
I'd say that your understanding of yourself is what's important. And that I'm very much a person of lived experience of trying to shape myself into something that I'm not. And it's particularly for people that I love. And I think the thing that I've come to realize is that my acceptance of me is what's important. And if other people can't accept that, there will be people out there that will. And it's about reaching out and finding that sort of found family and that community.
How about you?
I totally agree. I think that the most important thing is really finding that safe space that you can occupy and explore yourself. And I think it's really important to tell young people coming out is amazing. Some of the greatest joys of my life have come from coming out to my friends and my family and my loved ones. But also, if you're not safe, don't put yourself in a position to come out just because you see everyone else doing it. Find your people, find the people that make you safe, that support you, and you don't feel a pressure to be one version of this or one version of that. You just be you, and you do it in a way that makes yourself feel comfortable. So I think young people should be told that it's okay, you don't have to rush anything. Take time to find yourself and be happy with who you are and your situation before rushing to define yourself.
Absolutely. That's so incredible. Thank you both so much for chatting with me. It's been so almost life-changing.
No worries, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much for joining us on REELise Bites. It's so important for us to share our stories. Authentic narratives can help us understand that we're not alone and deserve respect.